Welcome back, hosers. Today we are talking about earwigs in the garden and, well, whether they are friends or foes, which is probably a pressing issue on your mind if you've got earwigs and you probably already decided that they are foes because, well, I think that's just the common wisdom around earwigs is everyone assumes they're up to no good because they got those creepy little pincers on their butts. So earwigs are, there's just some basic facts. Earwigs are a type of insect. An insect is an arthropod that has a head. That's a head, a thorax. The thorax is the section of the body that all the legs stick out of, and an abdomen. That is the end where the poop comes out. We're going to learn some fun terms for some of these things. Like there's a special science name for their butt pincher that we're going to learn, and there is a special science name for their poop. That's right. It is purely a coincidence that all of the special science names we're going to learn that are earwig related are also earwig butt related. If they all find the same hiding place and congregate there, they are going to get along. You don't see a lot of earwig on earwig violence. They're going to get along just fine. Most of the time, even when the males are fighting over a mate, they're probably not killing each other. They're surprisingly friendly for how spooky they look. Well, they only come out at night. If you see an earwig in the daytime, it's not a happy earwig. It's probably looking for its next hiding place. You can see them, and nobody wants that. So how do you know if you've got earwigs in your garden? Well, they tend to hide out in our crops. So I've noticed when I grew corn last that I would see them just kind of wedged where the corn leaves meet the stalk. That was like I always had earwigs in there. So probably the reason I haven't seen earwigs in my garden yet this year in my new garden is just because I haven't gotten around to growing a lot of stuff that they can hang out in. I don't know. I'm very excited to find out, and tomorrow I will probably know what my earwig situation actually is. So are earwigs friends or foes in my opinion? Because, this is my video. You've probably made up your mind. Honestly, I'm probably not going to change your mind today. There are some good things that earwigs can do for you and I. So if you're like, there's nothing good about earwigs, you're wrong. But if you're thinking they're foes, you're probably not wrong. So benefits of earwigs, number one, they are detritivores. So they are going to be finding dead or decaying material in your garden and eating that and breaking it down and pooping it out and making those nutrients available to our plants. So that's good. Anything that is a detritivore is doing some good in the garden. Earwigs are also, being omnivores, likely to eat bugs we don't want in our garden. And I'm using the word bug non-scientifically there, because aphids I don't think they're bugs. Are aphids bugs? I'm gonna have to look that up. Aphids suck, and bugs suck. Anyway, earwigs will eat some aphids. Earwigs will eat some harmful insects in our gardens. And so that's a positive, right? Those are ways that earwigs are kind of friends. But what makes them a foe is that they are an invasive species. And, well, as a biologist, that automatically makes something my foe. I really wish we would stop spreading stuff around where it doesn't belong. And as an invasive species, they are eating food and taking up hiding spaces that would normally be used by our native species. Also, a problem with earwigs is that they're eating beneficial insects in our gardens. And finally, when their population gets high enough, can just wreck our stuff. They will chew a lot of holes in our lettuce, and, well, that's the part we eat. And they'll get in our ears of corn and poop all over them, which is gross. You can still eat it because earwig poop it doesn't carry any diseases that we know of. So earwig poop is gross. They're going to get their poop all over our food, but if you wash it off, you can still eat the food at least. Well, then the question arises, they're only out at night. Something is eating our stuff. We can assume it's earwigs, but how do we know it's earwigs, right? How do we know that hole means I have to be mad at that insect? Well, there are some ways you can tell. If the holes in your crops look kind of like a snail or slug did it, it could also be earwig damage. They all make similar looking damage holes in the leaves of our crops. Luckily, they hide in the daytime, and oftentimes they'll hide in the plant that they're eating. So if you want to know, is my lettuce being eaten by slugs or is my lettuce being eaten by earwigs, look in your lettuce for an earwig. And then the third way is that they tend, like so many little critters in our garden, to poop where they eat. The sciencese word for earwig poop is frass. So look at your stuff, and if there are little black balls, little black insect poop-sized balls around the chew marks, then that is earwig frass. If there are long, slimy-looking, kind of grayish-green tubular poops, that would be the slugs and the snails. They have very different-looking poop. So that is how you will know if you need to be mad at the earwigs on a case-by-case basis. There are a couple of traps that you can build. Welcome to Casual Arts and Crafts with Dustin. Today we will be making some earwig traps. Now these are going to be variably complex. I'm going to start with this, well, this is a cottage cheese container, but any plastic dish will do. And I'm going to want to cut some openings in the lid. This already has air holes in it because this just happens to be the container that I was keeping isopods in when I did the friend or foe video about isopods. So I'm going to reuse this because recycling is good. So I'm just going to cut a few holes in the lid, and their placement isn't really that important. So I'm just kind of going off where there's already a hole to work with. They don't have to be massive holes because earwigs are able to work their way through pretty tight spaces. In fact, I'd like to keep them small enough. I'm going to go in with 4 holes. I'd like to keep the holes small enough to exclude some larger critters that I don't necessarily want getting in my trap. Now this is some fish oil that I collected because we don't eat a lot of bacon in my family. You can bait your trap with bacon grease. They like that, or you can also do fish oil or some other stinky food oil. And the stinkiness is really, oh yeah, that's there. That smells like fish. All right, and then I'm going to pop the lid on. This is my first trap. It is complete. That's really all there is to it. Now I'm going to show you the newspaper trap. I've been getting some free issues of the Deseret News, so thank you, Deseret News, for helping me build my earwig trap. This is a really simple trap design that I got from the Utah State University Extension page, so you know it's good. And I'm just going to roll up this newspaper. We've got lots of little layers here, and the tape is just to hold it in a roll so that all those lovely little nooks and crannies are preserved. And the way this works is the earwigs are just going to crawl into those nooks and crannies and hide there as they do. And that's it. That's that whole trap. Alternatively, the advantage of cardboard is that it's got more holes in it. You're going to want to make sure that your corrugations are what you're rolling in line with, just to increase your amount of area for earwigs to hide in. Alright, trap design number 3 is accomplished. These are very simple, and the reason they need to be simple is because these two are disposable traps. What you're going to do is you're going to lay this out, or even strap it to a tree. So you can strap it vertically to a tree trunk. Earwigs would love that. Or you can just lay it flat in your garden, and in the evening the earwigs will frolic and play all around, and then as dawn creeps across the land they will wedge themselves in here, and you'll just pick these up and throw them in your garbage can, and you're done. That's what these are for. This one is going to be a little bit more involved installation wise. Okay, so here we are in my garden, one of my raised beds, and this is a pretty good empty space to dig a hole. And we're going to dig a hole that is large enough to fit our container in. And I don't want to go deeper than that, so I'm going to build a little ramp. So there we go. The trap is set. Do I have earwigs in my garden? We'll find out at the end of this video. Earwigs do have some natural predators, even though they're an invasive species. Spiders and centipedes will both just eat the crap out of earwigs. Birds will also sometimes eat earwigs. Unfortunately, they have a really unpleasant odor. If you've ever stuck an earwig up your nose and thought, First of all, ew, what's that smell? And second of all, what was I thinking sticking this earwig up my nose? You will know that they have a terrible smell. P.S. Don't stick earwigs up your nose, that's gross. But this terrible smell deters a lot of predators, so they don't get eaten by very much stuff. Sometimes birds, mostly spiders and centipedes. So there's not really a lot you can do about population control with natural predators in terms of earwigs. That's just the case with invasive species. Sorry. None of the pesticides you can use on earwigs are targeted to earwigs specifically. So if you use a pesticide to control earwigs, keep in mind that you are also killing other critters that you may not intend to kill, including beneficial ones. The organic pesticides that are recommended for controlling earwigs are pyrethrin or diatomaceous earth. Remember, neither of those are specific. There are also synthetic pesticides you can use. The class of pesticides termed pyrethroids. So they're derived from pyrethrin, but they're no longer pyrethrin, so organic growers can't use them. Any pyrethroid is going to be effective against earwigs, and also malathion, which is an organophosphate pesticide, can be used against earwigs. And again, I cannot stress this enough. These are not targeted pesticides. You are not only killing earwigs. Please use them as a last resort, if at all. That's all the serious stuff taken care of. And let's talk about some of the, just some fun facts, because every critter in the world is interesting, and it never hurts to learn something about them. So, for instance, did you know, and I bet you didn't, that earwigs will eat each other's frass? Frass is science-ese for bug poop. So, yeah, earwigs, the adult earwigs will eat each other's frass, and I think that's just a habit left over from their youth. Juvenile earwigs get essential nutrients from the frass of adult earwigs. Female earwigs will build nests, they will lay their eggs in the nest, they will protect their eggs, and they will protect and feed their young. This is really uncommon behavior among non-social insects. I mean, they're sociable, but they're not technically social. So it's really kind of cool and weird that these earwigs do this. Earwigs have really good control of their cerci. Cerci does not mean like not Cersei Lannister. The cerci is the scientific name for their butt pincers. So if you want to talk about butt pincers, but you don't want to say butt pincers because maybe you're embarrassed because it's got butt in it and some people are not comfortable talking about butts, you can say cerci. They have really fine control of their cerci. They can whip those up and point them wherever they want and pinch at stuff. They use their cerci to dissuade predators. And then also the males will use their cerci to procure mates. I'm not sure on the details of that. I've never actually watched two male earwigs determine who gets to mate with whom. I imagine it's a lot of fun to watch. You can sex earwigs by looking at their cerci. The males have larger and more curved and ominous looking cerci. Females have straighter and slightly shorter cerci. It needs to be mentioned that it is extremely uncommon. It's uncommon for them to enter human ears. In fact, the name earwig doesn't come from any association with our ears. It actually has to do with the shape of their hind wings. Somebody looked at an earwig with its hind wing extended and said, that looks kind of like an ear. And that's where it comes from. So think of it more as earwing. So that is all the information that I really wanted to share with you about earwigs. Are they friends or foes? I think in most cases it's safe to call them foes. They're an invasive species. They're eating beneficial insects. So everyone except for the northeasters, I'm going to say fire at will. I'd consider them a foe. And now let's take a quick look at the results of the, see what we caught in my traps. Well, the trap has been in the garden overnight. This is the moment of truth. And what's in the trap? Oh, what I've got in here are, oh, sorry, isopod and several ants, but no earwigs, which makes me wonder, is my garden relatively free of earwigs? Anyway, that is the trap as designed and promoted by the Utah State University Extension. Give it a try in your garden and let me know in the comments if you catch anything. Thank you for joining me in my garden, and I hope you have a wonderful time in yours.